Okay, hi there. This is Jason Eagle, your Natural Health Authority. Welcome to the show. This is a show on health and healing and about my natural practice, but also we're telling the truth about what's going on here, and then also what should we be listening to and hearing, and what is the real deep understanding of, this is actually a good reminder. What we're going through right now is it's actually a good reminder of what I really should be doing, and I should have been doing, and what I'm going to be doing now, because this will take care of whatever's going on right now, but it will take care of anything that we'd also face in the future, and that's, again, underlying conditions and natural health. So this is Jason Eagle, your Natural Health Authority, and my website is strategichealing.us. You can find me on patreon.com. That's a way of supporting me and supporting the show and supporting my practice if you're anywhere out in the world. I'm posting right now live on Facebook, which is my Facebook page, Strategic Healing. And so first I want to talk about, let's put a shout out and thanks to the Chris Ayotte show. Yesterday was on the Chris Ayotte show, which is AM 1360, I believe. And he does a show from 4 to 7, and he interviewed me yesterday. I posted that on my Facebook Live, which is now archived, and you can see the show and see it went so well. I think they're going to have me on again, but it was really nice. I really appreciate the Chris Ayotte show. He brings a really good perspective and positive, and also likes to point people to, that's why they wanted me on the show, he likes to point people to, there's this person out there, there's this service out there, there's this thing, and they all kind of, getting the community together, because that's where we need to go now, which is need to get the community together. Once it's time to come on out, really, good ideas is maybe start meeting up with your neighbors, and really start getting together in terms of, we really should take care of this block, and should something like this happens, we need to be able to communicate with each other, and let's have a plan. Let's have a plan for what we should do, and even in our local neighborhoods, which is the plan is going to be take care of. Did you go check on Grandma? Did you go check on Auntie? Did you go check on her grandpa, the old guy? I heard that they weren't doing too well. We should check up on them. And because those are the people that are at the highest risk, and instead of closing this whole thing down, we're going to send people to those people. We're getting into where now it's going to be doctor's visits instead of going to ththese big buildings. We're going to get back to the old way of doctoring in many ways. Like people saw in Little House on the Prairie, where the guy came and he was a general practitioner. He knew everything and did it all, and didn't kind of go, well, that's not my specialty. I'm only a specialist in this. I don't know. And that really needs to be done away with on major scale, because it's what happens is it's so compartmentalized. The healthcare system is so compartmentalized that neither the twain shall meet. And they don't get together, and that's when we get caught in the middle. People get caught in the middle. And if the take away news, if we go back in time and what should we have known, which is, oh my goodness, take care of those people that are really have some of these underlying conditions that really, the model that we're working here is we're kind of making them sicker, and we're just kind of milking them for money. We really should get to them and help them to get out of this problem. Start chipping away at like these 3 or 4 different problems. Okay, now we've taken care of your heart disease. Okay, now we've taken care of your kidney issues. Okay, now we've taken care of your lung issues or your COPD or these different types of things. Okay, check, and then you eventually get to a person who is not going to have so many of these problems, and they're not going to be at such a high risk. And that's the real answer. So let me give you another little update. This is Jason Eagle, your Natural Health Authority. I'm going to give you an update on this is good news. This is really good news. There is really good news afoot. And if you are watching like I did yesterday, watch on TV, but let me turn you on to these people as I've done before, which is if you really want to go and see some real good explanations about from doctors that have really good perspectives and told you so, Sorry. It's Dr. Rashid Buttar. You can go to www.askdrbuttar, Ask Dr. Buttar. And then you can also go to Dr. Vincent Medici. That's www.medici, M-E-D-I-C-I, enterprises.com. Okay? And what they're going to tell you is what just came out yesterday, and really the night before, but yesterday, which is the Surgeon General came out. Our Surgeon General, our United States Surgeon General, Jerome Adams. What we have done is we have dropped the CDC, the World Health Organization, the Gates model. Okay, the Bill Gates model, which is their models, their projections were horrific and they were wrong. And we've dropped that. And what that means now is we have the real data. We are going off of the real data. So now, and that means that things are going to open up much faster. Now, like they said, and the focus is turned on to, okay, now we don't really need as many of these hospital beds and these, and if it's going the way that it trend that it looks like, then we're really coming out of the woods a lot faster. And we should come out of the woods a lot faster. And we should come through basically kind of going, we paid these guys and we're not paying them anymore because they really gave us the wrong information. It was really dangerous information, and we're starting to understand. And again, so we dropped those models, the models that came, because there was a bunch of really good doctors that had better models, and we just chose not to go with it. We chose to go with these other ones, but they're being dropped right now. I will also tell you that I watched the governor, California, Newsom, in his news conference basically kind of touted this, which is, okay, we're really going to focus on therapeutics. Their numbers are way down. The ones in California, there really should have been so much more, because way worse than New York because of all the people that flew in. They said something like it used to be Chinese were like 8,000 people would go in a day into California, right? 8,000 of the Chinese that's just from China, right? Well, the numbers, last I checked, is like 700 and some in the whole state of 33 million or something like that in the whole state of California. Those numbers don't add up. It's super, super low. That's good news. It's super good news. The other thing that the California Governor Newsom said is that alternative medicine integration. This is right from the horse's mouth. I saw him yesterday, meaning, okay, we're going to focus on therapeutics. They're downplaying about really the vaccine, downplaying this whole thing, which is we can't open anything up until 6 months to a year until we get a vaccine. That's done. That whole model is done. And what they're focusing on is really treatment, and then also integrating alternative therapies, alternative medicine, complementary, what's called CAM, complementary alternative medicine. That's what I do. That's what we do here. And because it's less invasive and it actually has some answers, and it's going to take the burden off of an already taxed medical system. And now they're starting to see some sense, which is, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We really need to get some real answers, and people need real healing. That's the other thing that's wonderful at this, is that even this medical field is going, we need to stop this harmfulness, and quite frankly, the harmfulness of information, as well as just the model of treatment, which is keep people healthy, keep them healthy, start chipping away at these things that were really in the background, lurking in the background, that were really making it the worst for you. The data has stated that the huge majority of people were at these ages, but it wasn't this age, it was they had these other underlying issues. We're also going to find out too that, for instance, with the African American community, the Asian community, okay, which our medical system used to say, well, that's racist. You can't tell, African American people that they better have vitamin D if they're going to live in the northern climates. If they're not getting enough sunshine, they're going to be at super high risk of heart disease and diabetes and these other things, because each people's body is individual, and there is some individual changes in races. And again, it's not what you would call racist. This is just the truth, which is, It's the same thing about genetics. People get all up in arms about, oh, it's in my I've got cancer in my genes, and this, my mom had breast cancer or this, and okay, what genes are, what genetics is just a suggestion, because it's what's called a predisposition. So getting fearful about what is, like what we would call the Angelina Jolie effect, which is, I'm afraid, I don't have any problem, but let's just cut them off. And she had a double mastectomy because it was that really necessary? Don't think so. Not really necessary. Now, it's her choice, and it's one man's opinion, but my opinion is if you really had understanding of the information about what's going on, instead of, for instance, having a double mastectomy, you should get the xenoestrogens out of your body, that's what seaweed. You should get the plastics out of you and all the chemicals and stuff out of there, and clean your system out. And if you have what's called the genetic predisposition or even racial predisposition, it's not a curse. All it says is you should know yourself. And if you knew yourself, what you're weak at, you should be bringing in, and what is a poison to you, you should be eliminating, or you should make adjustments, because that's the real truth. And the real truth is also true about, it's not even race, it's age too. As I've said in my show before, which is, we focus building muscle and having lots of protein. That is the young guy at the gym. That's the most important thing to him, and building muscle. It really shouldn't be the most important. It should be the most important thing to grandma, to grandpa, to auntie, to uncle, to the older ones, which is, they fell and they broke a hip. It's because they lost so much muscle in their legs. And if they had more physical therapy, and if you went over when it's time to go over them, okay, we're making some changes. We're going to make sure you're going to eat well. We're going to start doing some exercises. I'm going to go walking with you. We're going to rebuild this strength up in your legs. We're going to make sure you have enough protein. We're going to make sure that you eat the right type of protein and more than enough protein, right? Then she'll be stronger, he'll be stronger. And there's so many issues that we're clogging this medical system, that because people are staying home and everything, they're watching huge drops in heart attacks and all kinds of, the hospitals many of them are relatively empty because they're not going in for these other conditions. And it's such a miracle to find out that if we could, number one, stop the stress of the life that we've had. Yes, people have adopted other stress, which is the nervousness about what's going on, but at least they've been home and they've been sleeping and they've been taking care of themselves and things like that. It's having a huge effect on the benefit of our health. We are getting healthier through this, and what we're learning, which is, the real big boogeyman monster, is it can't touch you. It can't do it will touch you and you won't even know it, because you have such adaptive immunity. And then that adaptive immunity, which is herd immunity, can then be spread. Instead of the virus, the infection being spread, you're spreading the antidote. So even saying, well, we need to wait for a vaccine. You are the vaccine. Become the vaccine. And that's what they're saying. Is the good news is that we're going to throw this other stuff out. We're going to first of all look at the real numbers, the real data, and then we're going to move forward with that, that is so spectacular. It's made such a huge difference, and it's going to make a huge difference. So as I was saying, this is good news. I'm here to tell you good news. And if you want more information on this, you can visit these two guys, Dr. Buttar, Dr. Medici, and you can call me too. I can talk to people and say, hey, let me take you through it, and I'll prove it to you. You can prove it with your own eyes, right? So this is Jason Eagle, your natural health authority, and you can go to my website, strategichealing.us. I'm going to talk a little bit now about what is strategic healing. What is QRA? People, like I said, I'm on Facebook, and then I go on YouTube, and I'm going through comments from Korea, comments from the Philippines. People see me all over the place, hear me all over the place. And as I said, if you like what I'm doing, you want to support me, but yet you're too far away to come into the office, you can support me by going to patreon.com and that's Jason Eagle QRA. And you can donate some money to that, and it helps with the cause. Plus, you also see some of the other stuff that I'm doing, which is I have a farm. I've been eating so good. The food that we've been making. Just milked our sheep this morning, and I've been drinking raw sheep's milk. And I'll get into a minute about, yes, this has made a huge difference because I have some updates on my health, on what has happened in my health and what I've noticed and what are some of the things that I've gone through. And my own empirical evidence, which is I know who I was, and I know after doing what I've been doing long enough, which is all the stuff that I suggest to you. I take my supplements too. I do my exercises. I do my sauna. I do my breathing. I do my mental exercises and my good thoughts and my good perspective, and it's made such a huge difference, and it keeps making. I'm blown away what's happened in my life. So, okay, so we're going to take a commercial break here, and we will be back in about 1:25. So here we go. Okay. Okay, hello there. This is Jason Eagle, your natural health authority, and it's so good to be here and talking to you. And I'm a beacon here, and I'm telling you, it's good news. Your life is good news. This world is good news, and it's going to be really good news. It's good news not just for everybody, but this is good news for you, which is what you do matters. What you eat matters. What you don't eat matters. The simple things like drinking water and having salt and having enough minerals and having good air and knowing how to breathe that air correctly. It's not just enough to have air. You have to breathe it correctly. And people kind of go, well, it's deep breathing exercises. But it makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference. Things like singing, okay? This is huge in terms of for your immune system, for your mood, and your brain, okay? This is a huge part. And as I said over and over again, the overwhelming thing about this thing is this is a mind virus. It points out that fear can take you over, and it doesn't matter if it's bad. And again, being afraid is not the problem. It's being paralyzed, and it's being illogical and not knowing what to do. And, like all the heroes would tell you, it wasn't that I wasn't scared. It's just my programming just kicked in, which is all my training just kicked in. And I even blanked out, but I did the right things, okay, because it was so deeply ingrained in me. That's what we need to get, is deeply ingrained about what health is and what we are to do about health with our own lives. Okay. So let me get back into this. I realized that I had missed, last show I said, I'm going to tell you 2 things about myself. Well, I told you one, but I forgot to tell you the second one. The second one is kidneys, how important your kidneys are. And I know this from firsthand because if you remember, I've told you, what are some of the best diets that you can do, that you can experiment with and try in order to have an effect on inflammation, have an effect on, let's say, weight, have an effect on muscle mass, okay? I've talked to you about what's called the ketogenic diet, which is high protein, low carbohydrate. And then I also talked to you the most extreme one, which is called the carnivore diet, which is just meat. Well, I did it. I had never fully done the carnivore diet in my life, but I did it for 2 weeks straight. And I'm going to tell you, here's a word of caution. Take care of your kidneys. Because I said there was like, don't do it if you got bad kidneys. I don't have bad kidneys. I have good kidneys. But this overwhelmed my kidneys. And I developed this pain, especially my right kidney. I thought it was that I had pulled my back, or I pulled a rib out, because I do a lot of work on the farm, and I was cutting up a bunch of wood and stuff like that. So I thought I maybe pulled it. But as the days went on, it was a couple of days, I was like, I think it's my kidney. And I just happened to have an appointment with Dr. Tent. Dr. Tent is a chiropractor. He's my chiropractor. He's in Novi here, Michigan. And I went in and I said, you know what? I think it's my kidney. And every time I go to see him, he looks at my wife and he goes, this guy's good. Like, it was my kidney. He's tested my kidneys. He put me on a couple supplements. One was the Cal Ammo, which is a salt. And I also did my own salt. You do just some sea salt and some water. And I increased the amount of water. I started drinking cranberry juice. You can go to, I got some cranberry juice concentrate, no sugar, which you can go to let's say the grocery store. I went to, I think it was Papa Joe's, and it was a no sugar concentrate, and I drank that with lots of water. Plus I took what's called Renoven, which is a supplement that is for the kidneys. That's why they call it Renoven, because Rena stands for renals. I did my due diligence, and I clean. And here's the thing: is it wasn't just the carnivore diet. It was also as I said in the last show too, it was my salt, because on top of all this workout and eating the extra just straight protein, I was also taking saunas, so I was sweating too much and not replacing my salt. So, and salt helps you to hold fluid in your body. Magnesium helps you to hold fluid in your body. So I got dehydrated. Plus, again, the more protein, especially animal protein, it produced lots of waste products that it overwhelmed my kidneys. Well, good news is after I started doing the remedies, the very next day I felt just like so much better, and now it's just like it's completely gone. But I'm still taking some of the supplements because it was, again. So, I noticed I lost, I think it was probably like 8 pounds or something. I didn't do it to lose weight. I did it to but I felt a lot better. So it had a great effect on a whole bunch of different, but it came with the cost, which is, I'm going to tell you again, doing the ketogenic diet or the carnivore diet, you really should be on some form of kidney support. What's the kidney support, as I said, which is make sure, drink some water, drink some cranberry juice, or you can put lemons but in some water, but cranberry juice. Now, when you go to the grocery store, don't buy the one that has sugar in it. You're going to get what's called the sugar-free. You can also get what's called the Tart Cherry juice, or the Mount Morency cherry juice. You can also do that, which is the Tart Cherry juice in water. It's a concentrate. It doesn't have sugar in it, so it tastes very tart. It's sweet. It's not horrible. It actually is very, very delightful. It's very nice. You can take, like I said, the Renoven, the Cal Ammo. There's another supplement called AC Carbamide. That helped to unblock my kidneys. And it was a night and day difference. Overnight, it happens. Now, I'll tell you, I also have a client of mine that I've been taking care of her, and she's been in the nursing home. And because the nursing home's closed down, she didn't get to move as much. And what happened is she was laying down on her back. So if you're laying on the couch and you're not moving very much, auntie or grandma, like, she was not getting up and moving, and her kidneys slowed down. And then she also developed a urinary tract infection. So urinary tract goes to your kidneys. Your kidneys is what makes the urine. But see, if the urine sits in you and you're literally sitting on it, meaning sitting on the couch, sitting in a chair, sitting in a wheelchair, people who are in wheelchairs are at the highest risk of kidney disease, which a lot of death is actually because of the kidney infection, because they're sitting crunched on it. So they actually make some wheelchairs, so these stand-up wheelchairs for paraplegics that gets them standing up for X amount of, they can stand up, and it hooks them in there. And it's not so that they can be standing up with everyone else. It's so that the kidneys flow, because they're at super high risk of the kidneys jamming up. So I know personal that the kidneys, you got to get them moving. And again, if you tend to be the grandma or somebody that has to be in bed because of a back injury, make sure you are drinking your water. Make sure you're taking some sort of kidney supplement in order to repair the kidneys. Now, people that take, especially if you take a salt pill to drain the fluid, make sure you're taking something. So what's the other thing that's super good for kidneys? Oils, DHA. I'm going to get into a minute on one of the questions how important DHA is, but how much DHA? There's one condition I'm going to talk about, which is you can take up to 5 grams of DHA, between 2 to 5 grams. Well, if you were to take the DHA pills, each one of them is 200 milligrams, so a gram is 5. So that means anywhere between 10, 15, 20, even 30 of these pills a day as a loading dose. Is if you really got some bad kidneys, lots of inflammation and stuff like that, you can go on to, like for blood pressure, I'm going to talk to you in a minute. So the global anti-inflammatory response, if you got a lot of pain, a lot of inflammation, you could always try to do, which is a loading dose of DHA. We're talking about for a week, maybe 2 weeks, where you're doing, let's say, 20 of these. Or if you're going to take it in a liquid form, which is the EPA DHA, the normal amount is a teaspoon. You're going to probably take maybe a tablespoon, or maybe even 2 tablespoons of that a day. Again, because what it's going to do, it's going to clean these kidneys out. The essential fatty acids are so important. Okay, so I talked to you about that. Oh, and then, so like I said, about kidneys and a good chiropractor. Get yourself a chiropractor. The chiropractors have been open. Dr. Tent is, and there's some other good chiropractors. The question to ask them is, do they do what they would call contact reflex analysis or muscle testing? There's a different number of different terms for ours is QR. Question to ask them is, do they do what they would call contact reflex analysis or muscle testing? There's a different number of different terms for ours is QRA, which is it's called the modified O-ring test. That's one type of the kinesiological test, or what's called advanced kinesiological test. This is how he tested me, and meaning this is not no blood, no urine, no invasive tract. It's basically boom, boom, boom. They're touching you, and they're making you say, okay, hold strong, and they're pushing against certain muscles, and they're able to tap into your nervous system, just like I'm able to do. And it's like I say, is the analogy of QRA is kind of like a modern car, which is you don't lift the hood up anymore. You plug the computer into it, and then it tells you what's going on in the system. It's super accurate and non-invasive and very quick and very, very, very quick. So it's we're talking, real modern medicine could be a lot quicker than it is right now. Okay, so then let me get into another thing, which is now another testimonial, which is if you're on Facebook, you can see my finger. I crushed my finger. Last Saturday, we're doing grilling, and the grill, the very heavy smoker grill, fell on my middle finger, and it crushed my middle finger. Now, I would have gone to the emergency room, but the way things are, I didn't. Okay, so this is news for even acute type of things. What can you do? And it was really bad. My whole family looked at it and was like, ooh, oh man, it crushed the nail. It was black and blue. It was super swollen. I was afraid I may have even broken the bone in there, but it's just the very end, what's called the distal phalanges of the middle finger. So what did I do? I put it in ice right away, and then I started doing elevation. My back even still hurts right now because I laid on the couch for like 2 nights in a row, which is my arm way above my head, and I kept changing the dressing. But here's the other thing is, because of the amount of minerals that I've been on, just through my local diet, meaning the chicken eggs that we eat and the meat and the milk and everything, we have a farm, and one of our methods is we put what's called azomite, which is a volcanic mineral. So basically we're putting stuff back into the soil and into their feed that is the way that the earth used to be thousands of years ago. When people first showed up here in America, they were blown away, like the plains, which is when they started farming what became the Dust Bowl because they did it wrong, was so abundant because it had the buffalo and everything pooping and trampling on and eating it perfectly, and it was so full of nutrients, plus all these volcanoes that had gone off, and so the topsoil was so mineralized. The world was blown away by what we produced here, but because we didn't use the correct natural laws, we overfarmed it and took all the minerals away and then did not replace them. But we then replaced them with our modern medical system, which is we use these inorganic things, which is because people were getting after the Dust Bowl back in the early 1900s, people were getting in certain areas like Michigan, people were developing goiter because we didn't have the iodine because we're surrounded by fresh water. So they started putting iodine into the salt, right? And it got rid of the goiters, but it didn't get rid of hyperthyroidism or hypothyroidism. In fact, quite frankly, it made it worse because they used a very cheap form. They used this inorganic form. What's a better form? Seaweed. Okay, they should have just put seaweed in the salt and had us eating seaweed, right? Because it's not just iodine. Iodine in its natural sources, which is seaweed grows in the sea where we get iodine from. It's the chemical or the actual iodine atom is potentiated by the sunlight, and so it's energized. Plus it has all of these other cofactors, which is it's not an isolated form. It's the same thing as what we did with iron, which is they put ferric oxide, basically rust, in your food because it makes your blood show that you've got iron, but it starts to jam up your liver. It bioaccumulates the liver, which then displaces copper and blah, 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 on and on and on it goes. They put the B vitamins, but they use the synthetic cheap stuff that actually does more damage than good. So me taking the minerals in my life has made such a huge, how quickly this thing is healing. I am blown away by how it's not painful. It was completely numb. I couldn't feel it. And I was scared that I might even had made a blood clot because, being crushed like that, but I was not going to go into the doctor. So I took some Deltanol, which is these vitamin E that helps to thin the blood, but not over thin the blood. It helps to increase what's called circulation and microcirculation. I took what was called a nucleotides. And a nucleotides that's what the DNA is made, because I had to get rid of the bad cells and I had to build new cells. So I took nucleotides, which helps me it's what the DNA is made out of. So it's the building blocks for actually new cells, because all cells have to have DNA in it. So it's the most important building blocks to take in order to build fresh new cells. And then I also took what's called New Zealand velvet deer antler, which it provides live stem cells. Now there's, if you look at some of my YouTube comments, I've had so many shills that have come on so I did a video on this and they're like, you can't take that. Like if you take it from another source, it has to be your own cells. Your body can't use it if it's not from you. That's not true. Your body, many stem cells that we get from other animals or plants, when you're eating raw foods or plants or vegetables, you're getting stem cells too. There's all kinds of stem cells, and our body is not super picky on many of these cells, it's good enough because it acts as a matrix. It uses it as like a scaffolding, and then it exchanges it out, and then it puts your cells into it. So I've been providing myself with stem cells, as well as the nucleotides and the minerals that my body's been on. And I am blown away by how quickly this heals. I know of a story of a man that had his hand crushed and they could not do surgery. This is a story that Dr. Marshall told. This was a patient of his. He treated this man down in Texas that had his hand crushed in, I think it was like 18 too. He was young. But he had his hand crushed in, I think it was like a thresher or something like that. And they wanted to do hand surgery on him, but there was not enough blood flow because all the blood vessels had been crushed. And so the doctors were saying, you know what, if we don't get enough blood flow here, we're going to have to amputate it. And so this person I think it was the family member, called up Dr. Marshall. So what do we do? What do we do? And Dr. Marshall put him on the circuzyme, microcirculation, which is a chemical called hesperidin, which comes in blood oranges. one of my shows I did, which is God makes the world in front of it. Like carrots look like eyes. That's why they're good for you. Many of the plants out there that are really good for your blood, they look like blood. So blood oranges, when you take a blood orange and you squeeze the juice, it looks like blood, right? Well, lo and behold, there's these great things for blood supply, and that's what Circuzyme is. So he was taking, I think, 40 of them like every 15 minutes or something, huge amounts. And in a matter of, like, I think it was 2 hours, the doctors rechecked him and the blood supply came back to it, and they were blown away, and they're like, okay, it's a go. And they did surgery and they repaired this man's hand, and he was able to save his hand, and the doctors were blown away, especially the hand surgeon, which is, what did you do? Wow, that was amazing. So this is nutrition that really works, and therapies and perspectives that really work. And as I said, I got one of those metal things on my finger to keep me from banging on it. But I've never hurt my finger this bad before in my whole life. I've cut my finger. I used to work in a kitchen, and I cut right down to the bone. And I know how long that took. I know this is not the same injury, but when I was younger, I did not heal as fast as I'm healing right now. I am so blown away by how fast I am healing, and you can heal fast too. This is Jason Eagle, your natural health authority. You can find me at strateghealing.us. You can call my office. That's 734-985-5891. You got questions. If you want to get on some of these kits for the immune system, it's looking like some of these things are not as necessary as they were, but they are. What is necessary? Okay. The take-home message is still the most important thing. Take care of your underlying issues. Take care of the thing that's living in the basement that the whole family wanted to ignore, like the Goonies, right? It's like the relative that lived in the cellar, right? You need to know about that. And he needs to be integrated back into the family, because he's not a monster. He's just misunderstood. And so your underlying conditions of diseases, like heart disease, like cancer, like blood, like chronic pneumonia, these types of things that set you up for the worst case, you just don't understand it. And I'm telling you, what we're learning, what I've always known, and what we're going to learn even in the Western medicine, is feed it, okay? It's a basic thing. Again, probably the best medicine in this country, in this world, which does its job, which gets to the bottom of it and gets to the real answers and does it the cheapest way possible. It's not human medicine, it's veterinarian medicine, meaning what we've learned in terms of raising animals, and this is where we got into trouble with this one, which is the animals, okay? What's been done to the animals and how sick we treat them and how sick we raise them, and it's their diseases that can get spread through into and eventually go to us. This one, in terms of it being what's called a zoonotic transmission, is speculative. There's some that are saying that it came from a lab, and there's some that are saying that it came from these wet places, which is where they kill the animals, and this is where the bats were and stuff like that. It's what does it matter? Because the point is either case, it attacks the weakness in our herd. We are a herd. And if you want to go into some of the truth that I do is some of the things that I do in terms of treatment is a study of what's called entomology. Entomology is the understanding of words, which is what words mean. And this one called COVID-19, you can etymologically, what do the words mean? Okay. C, ovid. If you take the C out and you go ovid means sheep, or ovine, like a bovine, means a cow. And ovid or bovid, that's a sheep, right? So this is talking about the sheep, right? It's calling us the sheep, right? And so that has a very interesting connotation with what's happened to why they call it herd mentality, why they called it herd immunity, right? And why we talk about like lemmings over the edge, or like sheep to the slaughter, because it's a mental thing. It is part of it. And the reason the sheep just follows the other sheep, because I guess you know what you're doing, I'm just going to follow you. But there are some sheep that pick, I raise sheep and I know this, which is there are some who pick their head up out of the crowd and they're going, I'm not doing that. I'm not going that way. They're not all the same, right? And so there's nothing wrong with sheep, but be an aware sheep. Be a, don't take on that personality of just following what's in front of you and being pushed along by who's behind you. You can step out of line if you want to and be an individual and start using critical thinking and true observation and natural health, which is natural law, which is what's natural. Okay, what's unnatural about this system? Did you know this? Did you know this? Which is, within this system of legalese, it is illegal for you to say that water cures dehydration. Okay, that's illegal to say that. You can't say that it cures that because the word cure means something. This is nonsense. It's complete nonsense. Obviously, if you are dehydrated and you give people water, right, you're going to cure their dehydration, right? But see, the words are not what you think they are. There's a whole legalese system, and that's going to be done away with. It's just, mark my words, that's changing because it doesn't make sense, and it actually goes against life and healing. And we need to have a dialogue about this, which is, okay, that is definitions, or like I say, etymology, that it means this on this side, but to you and I, and what we think and what it means in reality, that's a different thing. And we have to come to a consensus of what true reality is and what the truth is. Because again, a person who's getting dehydrated and, I can't take that water because it won't cure me, that's nonsense, right? So now let me get into some of these questions that we've got. This one on blood pressure, okay? Blood pressure is one of these underlying conditions. Before you get into heart disease, before you get into what they're saying is like hypertension, prehypertension, these types of things that lead to these, you want to head it off at the pass, right? And it starts with blood pressure. It actually starts with your adrenals. It starts with your fluid balance before it gets into blood pressure issues. So the very first thing is again, people having chronic dehydration. It's very simple. There are so many people that are at these real conditions where it's just because decades and decades of not doing the basic things, okay? Making sure you're drinking enough water. How much water should you drink? Now, I'm not suggesting you drink this right away, because if a person's deficient in water, meaning and they've been drinking, let's say, a lot of diuretics, drinking a lot of coffee, that doesn't count as water. It actually pulls more water out of you. Tea, about the same thing. It pulls more water. So for every cup of coffee, you have to add 2 cups of water to replace what it took out of you, okay? Then we go on these monster drinks and pop, and that stuff does not count as water. It actually pulls more water out of you. So if you were really just doing the math on it, which is if you weigh 100 pounds, it's half your body weight in ounces. So it's a person who weighs 100 pounds, they should be drinking 50 ounces of water. Well, how many ounces? Well, those bottled waters are typically, let's say, an 8 ounce is the small one, a 10 to 12 ounce is one of the medium-sized one, and so add it up. How many bottles of those things? Now, when people have been very dehydrated, if you start drinking water right away, it's going to run right through you. You are going to pee your brains out, okay? And so you have to titrate up. You have to start small. So it's add a glass, add another 8 ounce, add a bottle, add more water. Plus add some salt to your water. Get some good sea salt. You can buy it cheap anywhere. The best would be the pink salt, not Himalayan pink salt, but the pink salt that we sell, it's a Mediterranean sea salt mixed with this Hawaiian Alea clay, which is super minerals. It's volcanic, just like the azomite. Get the volcano inside you, right? Because these minerals that come deep from the earth are so concentrated, and it's what we need to get. We need to bring up from the bottom up to the top. Okay. Let me go back to what I was saying. Oh, okay. So, yes, blood pressure. So it starts with making sure that you get rehydrated. And Now, then we get into some of the other things, which is, okay, circuzyme. If you've got blood pressure issues, I talked about this before. It's these capsules, these all natural things, and it has hawthorn berry. Hawthorn berry has an effect on the capillaries. Hawthorn berry is one of the very first heart tonics, which is, if you go back into the Shakespearean times and way before that, the Egyptian times, people had blood pressure issues and heart issues back then. And hawthorn berry, because why? Hawthorn berries are red. I juice them. I get them from the Asian market. They're delicious. They're these wonderful, great, juicy type of red berry. But again, it looks like blood, right? Same thing with beets. Taking fermented beets that gets nitric oxide. Beets look blood red, and they're good for your blood. There's another thing that you can take, which is called nattokinase, or natto, which is soybeans, fermented soybeans, which provides vitamin K. Or you can also take nattokinase, which is a fermented soy, which is, don't worry about the problem of it, because all the estrogen parts have been removed in terms of when it becomes fermented. The fermented beets. L-arginine. L-arginine, again, that's why some of the animal products. But, okay, let me tell you this. If you have blood pressure issues, this is where I really recommend that people eliminate all animal protein for 3 months. Get rid of eggs, get rid of dairy, get rid of meat, red meat that's acidic, which requires buffers. That's what happened to my kidneys, is I ate so much meat that it was requiring the acid to buffer, and that dissolved some minerals, which then got stuck in my kidneys. So, but I knew what to do about it. So if you have blood pressure issues, it's probably recommended that you actually do what would be called the plant-based diet. Okay, try that for 3 months. Okay. Then here's the other thing, is I talked about this before. If you're having problems with kidneys or blood pressure issues, because blood pressure issues relate to your adrenals and kidneys, is you want to take the DHA. So if you're a person that has high blood pressure issues or even low blood pressure issues, you've got blood pressure issues, I'm not saying don't take your medicine from your doctor, but on top of that, you should put DHA. A docosahexaenoic acid, which is, it's either you can get it in a fish oil or you can get it in this plant-based one, which is actually comes from microalgae, comes from the sea. How many do you take? You could, if you got blood pressure issues, I recommend that you start with like 20 of them a day. You can break them up and do, some for breakfast, some for lunch, some for dinner. Yes, a loading dose, which is you start with between 2 to 5 grams of DHA. And each one of these pills is about 200 milligrams. So that means it's 5 to make a gram. That's 1,000. So that makes a gram would be 5 of those pills. That's why you recommend you do probably, like I said, 20. You could even go up as much as like 30 because it says up to 5 grams, right? So I would start to 20. Now, you don't have to do this forever. You eventually can get down to where a normal person can only, like 2 of these capsules is enough to give all of your essential fatty acids. That's it's a big dose. But see, when you've got blood pressure issues and kidney issues, as well as some brain stuff, okay, blood pressure issues also relates to brain, meaning Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, these different types of things, is you're not getting enough blood to your brain, right? Because maybe your blood pressure issues, you can't pump it up there. So getting the blood pressure up there. Okay, now let me get into another thing about blood pressure is it's been related to infection in the bloodstream. If you're starting to get clogs in your arteries, which is pinching on your pipes, which is then raising the blood pressure up, it's because you have infection inside your blood cells. So, and I know this from working with the top cardiologist, Dr. Joel Kahn and Dr. Dan Govian. These are both vegan cardiologists. One of the top things that they do with people with heart issues, blood pressure issues, all of these things is getting after what's called the nanobacteria. They use this very expensive one called Nanobac, but you can do the same thing with yourself, which is you're killing nanobacteria infection, meaning your red blood cells, because they're feeding on too much sugar, they're eating the sugar, and so this is where it relates into blood pressure is often related to high blood sugar or bad insulin, meaning you cannot lower your blood, you can't lower your blood sugar. Well, if you got too much sugar, super tiny, and they are creating enzymes to scrape away at your walls to get into you. But your body's not stupid, and so it creates this foam, and it then sprays that inter to patch up the erosions, the scraping away, right? Well, but it works so good that it gets clogged, right? So this is where you start putting your thinking caps on, which is, like those old Western movies. We got to head them off at the past, right? Go back, right? And so if you take care of the infection, and so the nanobacteria infection is taken care of by alicidin, garlic. High levels of garlic will really start to kill what's called nanobacteria infection. Bring those levels down, which will then stop eating at the erosions, which will then stop eating at the plaque and the cholesterol deposits, right? And then if you help yourself out by then stopping, let's say, the animal protein type of stuff for a period of 3 months, you'll clean your arteries out because, see, your body will eat that cholesterol out because you've eliminated a lot of cholesterol and that your body needs. And so your body will eat it up. Where I differ with Dr. Khan is I don't necessarily believe that everybody should be on a plant-based diet their whole life. Some may not. But it is absolutely, I agree, it is a super tool to get rid of deposition that is clogging you up. Okay? Let me get into another one, which is, this is a great thing to do, especially nowadays, it's called a limbic hack. Your limbic system is part of your brain. It's part of your brain in terms of, and this is the thing that's being hacked by advertising, by smells, by perfumes, things like that. Because your nose goes straight into your limbic system, which is, it stores memory. Again, I use the story about like many people can smell cinnamon or nutmeg or something like that and be transported in their memory to, let's say, grandma's, abuelo, to be there. Like chocolate does the same thing. And literally, not only do you get the warm fuzzies, but it transports your psycho-emotional system, which is your hormones, back to a healing state. Okay? Well, so if you want to go the other way, we have been hacked for our bad. Well, we can hack it for our good, which is behavioral modification. Meaning, do you want to, let's see, if you want to train a dog, but you want to train it without hitting it, right? You can train it by spanking it and saying, don't do that, or you can give it a treat, right? The spanking doesn't work very well, and in fact, that's what they've done to us is this whole spanking type of thing, and reward with something that's even negative. Well, turn this around and reward yourself with something good. Feed your brain, and I recommend the QC oil blend, which is the QC oil blend is a blend of, rosemary and orange and lemon and eucalyptus. Okay, these are all scents that are built into our brain. How do I recommend that we use it? Which is, let's say you got your kids home right now and they get the answer right, or they do the dishes or do something and you want to praise them. Not only go up and praise them, or you can do this for yourself, which is if you've had bad habits, but you do the good thing. You do the thing and you reward yourself with this, instead of a treat of sugar or something like that, you pull this thing out of your pocket and you sniff it slowly into your nose 3 times. Oh, it smells so good. Well, what it does, though, is it lights up your brain and it associates, which is when you've had a positive thing, the thing that you want to reinforce, if you really want to drive it deep into your brain so that it becomes autonomic. Like I said, which is the heroes that said, I did it so many times and I got rewarded for it. And it just kicked in. So when I needed it, it kicked in and it took over on its own. And in fact, I even checked out and I watched my body doing it. And I was like protected from the trauma, but yet I was not paralyzed. So this is the thing, is how do we rebuild our brain? So this limbic hack, which is which is called positive behavioral modification, you can use this on your family and you can use it on yourself, which is when you've completed a task that you want to get done, you take 3 sniffs of it. When you, for instance, stopped something, made a good decision in terms of food or something like that, things that you've sat down and kind of go, you know what, it really would be good for me to work on this, right? Well, if you because so many of the bad behaviors are habits that are locked in with all this other stuff, and they were rewarded with, let's say, alcohol or sugar or all these other things, right? Or even rewarded with gossip, right? There's many people where bad behaviors gets rewarded with gossip, gossip is really just a bunch of people that just want to kind of get together and have support and solidarity. But if you have support and solidarity over something that's negative, even negative for you, it just becomes sealed in the deal, and it's hard to get out of, the dark. It's hard to get out of this trap. Well, you can very quickly change it. And by combining, like I said, this smell, which is what it does, you will see what it then starts, and you will make the right choices. And then your whole immune system and nervous system will change because it's being rewarded deeply in the brain, and it remembers something that is always good. You will never be able to corrupt lemon. You will never be able to corrupt eucalyptus. You'll never be able to corrupt rosemary, because not only is it a good smell, these essential oils, but they were built into our brain before we were ever born. They're built into the collective consciousness, and they trigger health and healing things. Even breathing rosemary, like taking rosemary, you can eat rosemary, make a rosemary tea, put it in your food. It kills these bacterias. These are things that were used during the plague and things like that. It's because if you have enough of these essential oils in the air and around you, these things that they can't get into you, because there's an energetic thing, which is there's a charge potential, which is when you put some of these essential oils in the air, just like negative ions, the viruses and other things, they fall to the ground. So if there's too much static electricity in the atmosphere, these things that are aerosolized, which would be, some of these microbes and stuff like that, they float around in the air, okay? But if you change, burning incense can do this. Sage is something that can do this. Palo Santo, it's not just it smells good, as you can actually see it changes the electromagnetic field in the air. We can do this with negative ions like a negative ion generator, or ozone. You can get an ozone generator that plugs right into your wall. And what happens is that it makes the dust fall to the ground, but it makes these things that are living in the dust go and fall right to the ground and don't go into your nose, and it's amazing, right? So these are natural laws, and the answers are all around us. And so be confident and start feeling better. Start rubbing the sleep out of your eyes right now. Today's a new day. It's going to be a new day. It's going to be all right, everybody. It's going to be all right. We're going to come through this, and we're going to come through and look back at it and go, wow, that was actually really good. Wow, this is genius how this works, which is the bad thing can get converted into a good thing, and then actually uncovers what the real truth is. And you are the real truth. Be the real truth for yourself and all around you, and be healthy. Until next time, this is Jason Eagle, your Natural Health Authority. Thank you, and bye-bye.